friend of mine has just had a hip operation, and he has had crutches after the operation to help him to walk and to get around. And he gets rid of the crutches today, and he's going to be able to walk a lot easier and without pain as well. He's been in pain for a long time. But his main help has been his wife, and she supported him and done things for him and looked after him. And it's as if God has provided in that situation someone very close to us who helps and supports us. A member of our congregation, Jane Meredith, has just had an operation, and I had a report yesterday about how much Derek, her husband, is helping her. Derek is a lovely guy, and he's giving a lot of support, and that's true in other cases as well, where Lawrence and Margaret have been poorly, and Marie Crawford, who has a lot of experience in nursing and occupational health, etc., has been helping and supporting them. I've just had an operation, and Shirley, my wife, has just been an amazing help to me as well. But there are other people who help in different ways, and I couldn't have spoken last week, and I couldn't have done the Hidden Treasures course on Wednesday night, and Keith has stepped in and done a marvellous job. Lynn is going to speak on Saturday because I've got to go for a CT scan on Saturday afternoon, and she will do a marvellous job. Everybody loves to hear her speak, and to hear Keith as well. They just take over the jobs that I can't do, and they do more than help. They exceed what I can do in many ways, and just God has provided them for us. Becky in the office, I walked out of the office and Becky just takes over, and she does everything. She's absolutely amazing. And there's so many other people who help and support. John in the worship has helped Shirley so much. She just relies on John, and John comes up trumps every single time. So he's taken on the worship while we've not been there as well. And God has provided this help. It's absolutely wonderful how God just provides everything that we need. And there are many other examples of how we are helped in time of need, really, and how close ones, loved ones, come in and support, and how friends come in and support, particularly in fellowships like Father's House. People are always there to support. Ed is always available to help. He helps in so many ways. He's going to help Ruth Ball, who moves next week. Ed's there to support her and help, and Ruth moves into a new house, and we know that she'll have help from people like Margaret and Jill, who live right next door to her, actually. So God provides all the things that we need, and we've been praying for our government to find help from God, to ask God for help, actually, to ask him to support us in these times when we're in a political turbulence, and Margaret Buckley and the intercessors have been praying regularly for the government to call out to God for help. And Psalm 1212 says, "My help comes from the Lord who made the heaven and the earth." Well, God does provide help, as I've just explained. Families help. Ruth Taylor is having help from her family. She's actually staying with her family after an operation in the Midlands, and we prayed for Ruth to have support in the same way as we're praying for the government to have support, and they just haven't asked God for the answer to the problems that we find ourselves in with Brexit. When I read that psalm, "My help comes from the Lord who made the heaven and the earth," then if God made the heavens and the earth, he can do everything. He's made the earth that our parliament is supposed to govern. So if they would only ask, then they would get an answer, but they need to ask God. The problem is they're asking each other. They're asking other politicians. They're asking in the wrong places for the answer to the problem that we have over Brexit. We need a godly government to have godly wisdom. You can't have a godly government without godly wisdom, but you can't have a non-godly government with godly wisdom. So we need to have parliamentarians, MPs who actually seek God with all their heart and all their soul and all their strength. Matthew 7:7 says, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you." You know, Theresa May really needs to ask God for a way forward. I don't know if she's a Christian or not. Her father was a minister, and maybe she is asking God, but the people around her obviously aren't. And we need to get out of Europe. I really feel that, and so do many others. And Margaret Buckley, who never was interested in politics until Brexit, is prays every day. In fact, she's become a real intercessor. She's actually, I was told that she was emotionally involved in her prayer last week at the prayer meeting, and was quite upset about the whole situation. And that's God working through her and expressing, I'm sure, how he feels about things. And she's crying out for mercy, really, for our nation. Hebrews 4:16 says, "Therefore let us draw near with confidence to the throne of grace, so that we may receive mercy and find grace in time of need." Our country definitely needs mercy and grace from God, because we are in a time of need. We need to have answers for our businesses, for our commerce in this country, for our farmers, for everybody. Our education system, we need answers from God. We need his grace and his mercy in these times. If we don't pull out of Europe now, Europe will have us in their grip for years and years to come, and we won't be free to decide which way to go and what path to follow in our nation, because we will have lost the battle and we will become political underdogs in Europe. And other nations who want to leave are looking to us to see how we responded to our vote to leave. And we seem to have failed them in so many ways as well, because we're not showing the way forward. Psalm 107:28-30 says, "Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distress. He caused the storm to still, so that the waves of the sea were hushed. Then they were glad because they were quiet. So he guided them to their desired haven." I mean, that is a beautiful psalm. And that's what we want God to do, is to guide us to our desired haven, which is an independent nation who can decide which way we should go, what laws we should have, how we should trade, who we should trade with, who we should have coming into the country. And we need to help immigrants coming in. We need to help refugees to come in. But we can't just take refugees from one particular area of the world. What about refugees from other areas? We need to be able to decide who to help and when to help. So that's our desired haven. And God will help us find that if we will turn to him, if we as a nation would only turn to him and ask him what to do. A lot of people are very anxious about this time that we're going through politically, and a lot of people are finding it difficult to deal with the way that our country is going, and And we're becoming anxious as a nation about the situation we're in. 1 Peter 5:7 says, casting all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. You know, God cares for every nation. That's why he chose the nation of Israel, to show us who God is. Ezekiel 36 says that the return of the Jews to Israel, his ingathering of the Jews, is to show the nations that he's God, to show the nations his glory. So he cares about the nations. He cares about the United Kingdom. And it's really important that we understand that, and that our nation prays. And I guess when I said our Parliament needs to pray and ask God for help, yes, it does. But you know, as I read this scripture, I realise that actually our nation needs to get on its knees and pray. We need as a nation to pray. Now this morning, there will be a prayer meeting, and I know who will be there. There will be Margaret Buckley, there will be Diane, there will be Dorothy and Don and Dennis and others, and people will be praying. You know, wouldn't that be marvellous if the whole of our nation each Friday prayed for our nation? Wouldn't that be an amazing thing? You know, that happened in time of war. And I guess we're in war with the enemy today in the United Kingdom because he's stealing our peace. So if you have an opportunity today, would you please pray for our nation and ask God to help us in the same way as God has provided our husbands and wives to help us, and our friends to help, and to take over the things that we can't do, and just ask God in these times to do that. So thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom, Mike Fryer.